Hello, welcome to Eddie's Corner, and thank you for being here. Today I'll be sharing 5 discipline acts that completely changed my life. You know, my friends often ask me, Eddie, how do you stay consistent? How do you keep doing all these things? Family, work, and even YouTube. And you still seem calm. And my answer is always the same, and that is discipline, not motivation. Hello, and welcome to Eddie's Corner. I started this channel to share lessons on faith, family, and personal growth, to remind us all that change begins with daily small choices. And if this message resonates with you, kindly please subscribe and join this growing family, because your support helps us to reach more life and inspire more people. Thank you, and God bless. Motivation fades, but discipline stays. Motivation will fade, but discipline will remain. And today, I'll be sharing with you 5 discipline acts that completely changed my life. I believe that they can change yours too. Of course, this is in addition to clarity, consistency, and community that I shared in one of my YouTube shorts, I think last week. So grab a notebook, because this isn't theory. This is a tested and lived experience. I'll be sharing my experience with you, the things that I have tried and the things that I've tested. And I can tell you for a fact that they work. So let us get right into the video. Hack number 1, the start anyway rule. Start anyway. You know, there are times in my life that I waited to feel ready before doing anything. For instance, I would plan to say I wake up at 5 a.m. But if I don't feel like it, I just hit the snooze button. Plan to work out. But if I wasn't in the mood, I'll just postpone. Until one day I realized discipline isn't about, how you feel. It is about how you moved. Now, here's a little secret. My first degree was physics. And one of the very first principles that we learned in physics was the law of inertia. That is the tendency for an object to stay exactly at rest unless acted upon by an external force. For instance, a ball will stay where it is until you kick it. So if an object is at rest, it stays at rest until something comes to move it away. And that is what happened to us too. You see, the longer we sit still, that is, you stay in one place, the heavier, the more difficult starting feels. But the moment you begin, momentum kicks in. And that is when everything changes. So I created my first discipline hack. Start anyway. It doesn't matter how you feel. Go for it and start. Even when I don't feel ready, I start. Even when I don't feel motivated, you know what I do? I start. Because once you start, momentum becomes your ally, or momentum takes over, becomes your ally. Just like the force of inertia. The force of inertia keeps a moving object in motion. And I'll say that again. The force of the force of inertia, right? The principle of inertia says that once an object is in motion, there is a force that keeps it in motion. That one principle has helped me. Starting workouts, I don't feel like doing, making videos, even when my schedule feels tight. When it comes to reading, even when I feel tired, I just know that once I start, I will keep going, that the momentum will take over. Remember this, you don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. That is discipline. So discipline is like physics. Once you overcome the resistance of rest, motion sustains itself. Once you overcome that first initial force of rest, what happens is that motion will just take over. Motion sustains itself. Consistency isn't about emotional highs. It is built on ordinary days where you choose to start anyways. What will make you achieve those goals is when you choose to start anyways, even when you do not feel like it. And number 2, you see, I call this traction planning. Traction planning, because one of the biggest enemies of discipline is distraction. Your phone, notifications, and even, you see, that constant urge to multitask. But here's the truth. Distraction isn't just about what's happening around you. It's mostly about what is happening within you. And I'll say that again. Distraction many a time is not just about what is happening around you. It is what is happening within you. I love this wonderful American author, Nia. Is the one that authored this book called Indistractable and another book called Hooked. He said something that really hit me. He said the opposite of distraction is not focus. It is traction. And that is how I came up with this, traction planning. Because traction means doing what you intentionally plan to do. Traction, it means what you intentionally plan to do. Anything outside that plan, no matter how small, no matter how important you think it is, becomes a distraction. I'll say that again. Traction is what you originally plan to do. Anything outside that becomes a distraction. And what you plan to do is completely up to you. In other words, it is you that determine or decide what is important. And that could be work, it could be prayer, it could be exercise, it could even be, video games. As long as it is scheduled and intentionally, then it becomes traction. Once you schedule something intentionally, you plan for it, it becomes traction. Neil also explained that he said external triggers like social media, alerts, notification, he said all of those external triggers only account for 10% of distraction. This actually shocked me. Then he said the other 90%, it comes from the internal triggers, things like stress, boredom, or even, emotional escape. In other words, the real war for distraction or the real war for focus isn't out there. It is within you. So I started practicing what I call traction planning. I actually schedule everything, even the things people may call waste of time. I schedule, for instance, social media. I schedule my rest. When you scroll on social media, I schedule all of those things. Now, I may not stick to it 100%, but when I review my day, I notice something powerful, and that was awareness. Awareness, a sense that I am in control, not my impulse. That is, I control what I do part time, not my impulse. There was this wonderful poet, Dorothy Parker. She once said that, the time you plan to waste is not a wasted time. And I'll say that again. The time that you plan, the time that you schedule to waste, it is not a wasted time. You see, this particular quote freed me. And here's the principle. Don't fight distraction. Plan traction. Don't fight distraction. Plan traction. Because the moment you take ownership of your time, you take ownership of your life. So plan traction. It doesn't matter what it is. You can plan sleep. You can plan anything. You can plan activities even in your relationship. The idea is that you have ownership of your time, and this will help you focus on the activity that you've decided to do. And you say to yourself, when I finish this activity, then I can get back to that other activity. That is traction planning. And hack number 3, systems beat willpower. I'll say that again. Systems beat willpower. You see, for years, I relied on willpower, determination. But you know what? They failed me every time. I will say, hey, I will try harder. But trying harder isn't sustainable. Then I discovered the power of systems. The power of system. For instance, instead of relying on memory, I set reminders for everything. Instead of deciding when to work out, I schedule in advance. Instead of depending on motivation to save money, you know what I do? I set up automatic transfers. That is when I learned that discipline isn't about strength, isn't about vigor, it is about structure. Putting structure in place. Think of it this way. If you remove friction, success becomes easier. When you remove friction, success becomes easier. And I set systems that support my habits, discipline becomes automatic. So don't try to be strong, but be smart. Build systems that makes the right thing the easy things to do. Now, hack number 4, embrace boredom. Embrace boredom. Now, this one is hard to swallow, but it is true. Greatness often looks boring. For instance, when I started content creating, the early days when I started, it was very slow because barely there was no view, and even the strength to make video was not there. But because progress was invisible, but you know what I did? I stayed, I repeated, and I refined. Now, making video is becoming more natural to me because discipline means doing what works. Let me say that again. Discipline, it means doing what works, even if it is not exciting. Most people quit not because it is hard, but because it is boring. I'll say that again. The reason why you have quit is not because it is hard, but because you think it is boring. Because a lot of people want excitement. They want excitement every day, but growth lives in routine. So when boredom shows up, don't run, embrace it. Embrace routine, because that is where consistency is built. And that is how consistency is built. It is where consistency is built, and it is how consistency is built. That is where transformation begins. I mean, real transformation. It is not exciting. It is boring. But as soon as you embrace it, it's a matter of time, it becomes natural to you. If you can stay consistent when it is boring, you will outlast everyone waiting to feel inspired. If you wait long enough, you will outlive or outlong or perform better than those people that are waiting to be inspired before they take the right step. And hack number 5, accountability mirror. Accountability mirror. You see, this one changed me the most. What I do is every Sunday night, I look at myself in the mirror and I ask, Eddie, did you live this week with discipline? Did you spend this week in discipline? Now, I don't blame circumstance, I don't blame family, I don't blame fatigue. I just reflect honestly. Sometimes I nod in pride. Other times, I feel that sting of truth that I could have done better. But that reflection keeps me humble, grounded, and I have this sense of awareness. When I wanted to change my job, for instance, I had a friend who always asked me, "Oh boy, how many jobs have you applied for?" He kept asking me that question each time he calls me. And when I remember he will call me, and because of course I cannot lie, I can't be lying for stuff like that, I make sure I put in some kind of application, even if it is those easy apply on LinkedIn. I make sure I do something, because whenever he calls me, he will ask me that question. So I want to challenge you to surround yourself with the right community. Like I said in my short last week, have people that can challenge you, people that can inspire you, people that you can be accountable to. That is very important, because true discipline isn't about perfection, it is about progress. Let me say that again. True discipline isn't about perfection, it is about progress. And accountability, being it, accountable to a mentor, a friend, or your personal reflection, those keep you aligned with your purpose. They keep you grounded with your purpose. All right. So you can't have discipline without purpose. This is very, very important. You can't have discipline without purpose. So you have to know that your purpose also is very, very important when we talk about discipline. If you don't know where you are, if you don't know why you are doing something, you will never last. You will get exhausted. If you don't know why, the reason why you are doing something, you will never last. It will be hard for you to sustain that discipline, because discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It is preparation for the future that you wanted. It is the preparation for the future that you decide that you wanted. That is why I said during the point of traction planning, that it is you saying what is important. It is you. It is your place to say, this is important and I am doing it. Nobody's going to tell you what is important. You set what is important and be committed to it. So let's wrap up, right? Number one, like I said, start anyway. Just start. When you start, that's momentum will sustain you. Number two, traction planning. That is, it is your place. You have the responsibility to decide what is important to you. Number three, system beat willpower. Number four, embrace boredom. Embrace routine. And number five, the accountability mirror. These 5 discipline acts build the life I live today, one day at a time. I'm no longer where I used to be. And if you will dare practice them, I promise you, your life will change also. So here's the question for you. Which of these 5 will you start with this week? Which one will you start? Will you begin tonight or today, this afternoon, this morning? Drop it in the comment sections. I'll be reading every single one. And if this video added value to you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because remember, dreams don't work unless you do. I'll say that again. Dreams do not work unless you do. God bless you and see you at the top.